Hi everyone, Robbin here, one of the librarians at the Mattapoisett Library, with the 11th of my brief, now bi-weekly presentations of suggested books from a particular genre I call Bitty Book Reviews with Robbin. This week I'm reviewing books in a genre I'm calling Little Known Black History in America. Each of the 5 books I'm reviewing were published in 2020. They're relevant and important for everyone to read. I'm also including a meaningful memoir by Frederick Douglass, who at one point lived in New Bedford and should be read if you haven't yet, and a great resource list as well. Again, get back to me with your thoughts via the contact information, which is on the last slide of the presentation, or go to the library's main page, mattapoisettlibrary.org, and click on Contact Us. The first book is called Wilmingtons Lie, The Murderous Coup of 1898 and the Rise of White Supremacy by David Zucchino. Pulitzer Prize winner journalist Zucchino uses primary sources to create a gripping and compelling narrative that weaves together stories of hate, fear, and brutality. This is a dramatic and definitive account of a remarkable but forgotten chapter of American history. In the 1890s, then North Carolina's largest city, Wilmington, was a mixed-race community that did pretty well for itself until white supremacists plotted to lead a brutal and racially motivated coup that impacted journalism, the state legislature, and resulted in deaths of innocent Black citizens. The next title is The Great Oklahoma Swindle: Race, Religion, and Lies in America's Weirdest State by Russell Cobb. Author Cobb, who was raised in Tulsa, tells the story of the contradictory state of Oklahoma, with a wealth of natural resources and artistic talent, yet near the bottom of the education and social welfare list. He tells one of the nation's worst episodes of racial violence called the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, as the KKK took over the state at one point. He presents an insightful portrait of race, religion, and politics in Middle America. The next title is called Olympic Pride, American Prejudice: The Untold Story of 18 African Americans who defied Jim Crow and Adolf Hitler to compete in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, and it's by Deborah Riley Draper. Draper, in another untold chapter of Black history, tells the story of 18 Black men and Black women who, along with more well-known Jesse Owens, represented America in the Olympic Games in 1936 Berlin. Learn how these superb athletes defy racism, not only in Nazi Germany, but in America, where they are treated as second-class citizens. Their perseverance and courage in the face of racism, sports, and politics is a must-read. The next title is called The Last Negroes at Harvard: The Class of 1963 and the 18 Young Men Who Changed Harvard Forever by Kent Garrett. This book is part memoir, part group portrait, and part narrative history of the intersection between the civil rights movement and higher education. And this is a remarkable story of brilliant singular boys whose identities were changed at and by Harvard, and who in turn changed Harvard. The next title is called The Black Cabinet: The Untold Story of African Americans in Politics During the Age of Roosevelt by Jill Watts. In this history, author Watts tells the story of a pivotal point in civil rights activity before the 1950s and 60s. Read how Black activists, intellectuals, and scholars, also known as the Black Cabinet, worked within the government with FDR to advance civil rights policies and stop or modify ones that would have worsened institutional racism. Finally, if you haven't read it yet, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, by Frederick Douglass, is fascinating on its own, but also because of the local connection with New Bedford. Douglass, who lived in New Bedford for some years, published his memoir in 1845, in which he tells his story of the horrors of slavery and how he overcame it and became an abolitionist, writer, newspaper editor, and orator of renown around the world. Finally, there are some additional websites you might be interested in. The first, by the Mass Library System, has a tremendous number of guides and websites that you can check out. The National Park Service has a wonderful website on Frederick Douglass. The New Bedford Historical Society also has a great guide to Frederick Douglass's time in New Bedford. And NPR has a guide to books and films about racism that you might want to check out. Thank you for attending, and any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to contact me.